게임은 재밌으면 된다니까?
불멸의 전사 2.
Good afternoon and welcome to another day of Pro League down here at the Nexon Arena. I am Valdez, with me is GTR tonight, and we do have the Bronze Challenger match. It's going to be SKT versus CJ.
Weekend watching DreamHack tours, but now we do have the Pro League here, as we do have SK Telecom T1 surprisingly in the bronze match. We expect them to be in the gold match, but here they are today against CJ Enters, who's actually quite sneaked their way into the playoffs. They feel like they're a freak of this season, of this round rather.
Yeah, it's really weird. I mean, they get in, they're 3-3 with a -3 indicator. So when you look at that score, you're like, do these guys really deserve to be in? But you know, with the new Pro League this year, we got only 7 teams. These guys squeaked their way through, as you were saying. But it's going to be an interesting match. It's the all-kill format. We always talk about how ByuL and Hero are definitely the performers of the CJ team, but can they essentially take down this SK Telecom team by themselves? And is anyone else on CJ going to step up and help?
Yeah, ByuL and Hero definitely need to take at least one win here if CJs have any chance of making it against SK Telecom T1. But the opening match will be Classic against ByuL, and I'm fearing a lot for ByuL here because Classic, he did have that minus slump at the start of round 2, but he's kind of resurged and he's become one of the linchpins, I guess, for the SK Telecom T1 team in round 2.
Yeah, he definitely has. He's slowly come back into form, and we can't really say the same about ByuL. I mean, he's had wins here and there, but he's not quite the superstar that he was in 2014, 2015. And CJ Antis really needs him to step it up tonight, especially in this first game. They don't want to give up one to Classic here, that is for sure.
Yeah, and with the depth of SK Telecom T1, I would not be surprised if we don't see players like Dark, Innovation, etc. because there's so many good players on SK Telecom T1 that I'm pretty sure that I Love OV and the coaching staff of SK Telecom T1 have developed a plan for every possible scenario. And you have to consider as well, CJ's roster is very thin.
Yep, as I said before, it's like basically ByuL and Hero. Bunny has been stepping up a little bit. He made it to the round of 16 of GSL. Who else are they going to play though? Is it going to be Hush? I guess. Like,
well, we know Hush is the Protoss sniper, right?
Yeah.
So if ByuL loses the Classic, which I'm predicting will happen, I would not be surprised to see Hush go up against Classic.
Yeah, would not be surprised at all. It's going to be Lurelak Crest for Game 2. That should be an interesting PvP if it does come to it. You can see the point totals here. So far, the teams that did make it into the playoffs get a little bit of extra points, but if you get second place, you get 10 bonus points, and if you get first place here in the playoffs, you do get 40 extra points. So SK Telecom, they're here at third place, but they're looking for those extra points to solidify their first place.
Yeah, looking at what we're going to see in the Grand Finals when we get to there later in the year, I think T1, Jinair, and KT are shoo-ins for that playoff. Yeah. It's all going to be about that last spot, 4th place. I mean, Afrika was playing last season, last round in the playoffs, and then in this round we have CJ, so we could see Samsung or MVP play. We'll just have to wait and see how it goes.
Yeah, we're taking a look at some stats here. Overall, T1 has definitely had a better time against CJ Entis, and even just looking at the maps here, you can see how many games were actually played on both King Tatum Station and Overgrowth and Frost. All these older maps, we have some more data.
Yeah, and before that graphic did go away, we saw that Lurelak Crest for CJ, 2-7. So it seems to be their bogey map, as guess you could say, for them. And
their bogey map, yeah. I like that.
And you also have to consider like King Tatum Station, Frost, and Overgrowth. They also include the harder Swarm stats. So a lot of the players that were on CJ that probably played on the map aren't on the team anymore. So most of the stats are quite nullified, I guess.
Very true. And we took a look at just how many times players have 2, 3, and 4 killed there, essentially all killing with the 4 kill. Innovation has 3 all kills.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's just insanity.
Oh, I mean, Hero and Hush is actually, he's 2 killed. But besides that, ByuL has only done 1 free kill, and no one on CJ is actually all killed. So I don't think we're going to see that from CJ tonight. I'd be very surprised if we do.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a nice way to kick off the playoffs and would definitely be a huge upset, especially with SK Telecom, this team that's just been dominating since the first round. They had a harder time, obviously, here in the second round, but they're just known as the best team. They're like the Yankees, right, of Pro League.
Yeah,
but
Yankees, Real Madrid, whatever sport you follow.
yeah.
I mean, they're the strongest squad out there. And so we see here the Pro League photo card collection event that we have here down at the Nexon Arena. Basically, if you put your name into a box and at the end of the broadcast, if your name gets drawn out of that box, you do receive one of these signed photo cards that we have here available for you. And these are the winners of the online event that we have. Pretty sure as foreigners aren't eligible for that. And also remember to follow our SNS here for Pro League, proleague.se2 for Facebook. And the Twitters, we've got 2 Twitters, Kesper for the Korean Twitter, and then Kesper EN for the English Twitter. Yeah. And then make sure to also hashtag SKT win and CJ win along with the normal hashtag that we have at hashtag SPL.
Yeah, you kind of covered everything there. Definitely get out and do that, guys. Spread the love for Starcraft. That's what it's all about. And tell your friends to get in the stream before this all starts. I know DreamHack's going to be on a little bit later in about an hour, but you could always multi-Twitch if you want to follow all of StarCraft. You got the Korean side and the foreign side. You got the 2 tournaments going on at the same time.
Best of both worlds. Why not?
Yeah, for sure. Going to be an exciting day for both tournaments.
And we see actually here the SKT win is only 57%. That's actually quite surprising considering the fan base of SKT is quite large compared to CJ.
Yeah, I don't. This is very interesting. I think this is like an early vote, maybe before too many people have gone out there and hashtagged just yet, but I expect that to be more heavily in SKT's favor for sure a little bit later on in the night. I mean, CJ, not to harp on it too much, but like, SKT being the favorite team is one thing, but CJ also, like, they've come into playoffs and they've been able to take wins and beat good teams before. So it's definitely not impossible for them to come out here and have a chance of winning this.
For sure, especially if ByuL and Hero, as I mentioned before, do pick up 1 or 2 wins on their side, and then they allow for players like Bunny, look for Hush, Ragnarok, whoever they decide to send out to clean up the rest of the series, I guess. But we see here Classic. He was in a slump, there's no doubt about it, after he lost to Patience in the SSL losers semis, I believe, or something like that. But yeah, he's kind of come out of that slump and he's done very well for his team. And here we have ByuL.
Yeah, I mean a bit. He's sitting at 3-2, and part of that is because that roster is so deep. He hasn't really had that many chances because they have so many good players. But coming out here first, they definitely have the belief in this player to come out here and at least get 1 win against this player, ByuL, 6-6, not kind of the same score that he got in the last round. But guys, it looks like we are going to start game number 1 right now on Dust Towers. Up here in the top right, in the orange, it is Classic, the Protoss player.
And spawning here at the bottom left, as the yellow Zerg for CJ enters, it is ByuL. And the map, as always, will be Dust Towers. Something about 1 week long.
Waiting for the playoffs of Pro League there, and he mentioned something about Chaster playing in the SSL qualifiers.
Oh man, that was a Shrekening, if I want to call it that.
Oh boy.
If you guys haven't watched the VODs, I highly suggest you do, just so you can see not how to defend a 2-base Roach Ravager all-in. I mean, the games were so bad that I mean, Kanata was face-palming so hard.
Yeah, and I mean, this is what happens when you just get a normal, like, it could just be any normal, like, mid-level Masters player coming to one of these qualifiers. They just get crushed.
Well, the thing is, he didn't even play against a pro gamer. He just played against an amateur, but he still got crushed.
He still got wrecked in 2 games, as you were saying. So if you want an idea of what it's like, and this is the Korean server we're talking about, he's not master on NA or anything like that. He's master on KR.
And he's not even low masters. He's like mid-master, like rank 50. So that's no big deal to talk about.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty good.
For sure.
But
so
we actually see 2 hatch before spawning pool here. I'm not really surprised. It is Dust Tower. It's a very large map. You can play with that greed in mind with the map size.
Yeah, I like it. We are going to have this for game number 1 and game number 7 if it does get there, as we do only have, I guess, 6 maps in the pool. So we'll see if it does get there. I'm not so sure just yet, but a very big map, very passive. Don't see too many Zergs on this map. You see it every once in a while, but
yeah,
see a lot of Protosses, a lot of Terrans.
Yeah, a lot of mirrors, especially on those maps with the back expansion. So Orbital Shipyard as well as Dust Towers, of course. We see a lot of Protosses on that map, and mainly we see mirrors. But here we see a bit of surprise, ByuL coming out here for CJ Entis, and I'm really curious to see how he's going to play this out.
Yeah, I'm curious to like know how did they decide that ByuL was going to come out here? Did they know that Classic was going to come out in this first game? Did they, did SKT see that ByuL was going to come out? Did they predict that and then send out Classic to counter him? Not 100% sure.
Yeah, as we see here, the first Adept is out for Classic. Speed is coming up for ByuL as well, and ByuL's just very happy just sitting with these couple of links to try and deflect this Adept. And actually, Adept Shade's in, but there's no drones there for Classic to deal with, so it's just going to just sit there and just poke at that hatchery.
Almost lost a couple of larvae there, but they are made into eggs. Shade's out. Or actually, this is the same one. Shade's out. And just getting that scouting information down here. Just wants to see, how many drones are out just yet. See if he can scout any early tech or anything like that. All pretty normal for ByuL, just making drones. He is getting Overlord speed, so he's going to be able to scout the entire base of Classic quite easily here.
Yeah, that being said, though, ByuL is getting, as you said, Overlord speed for ByuL to help scout. And instead of going for the Oracle, Classic is actually going for the Phoenixes. So I think in Classic's mind, he's very scared about the quick Baneling, Zergling drop shenanigans that we first saw from Dark in the SSL finals. So it's just getting those Phoenixes to be safe and to try and deflect those Overlords away.
And he will be successful in doing that. Hopefully he doesn't turn out like Rogue and totally miss the Overlords. Or turn out like Zest, I should say, against Rogue, where he totally misses the Overlords and gets Baneling dropped anyway with a bunch of Phoenixes down on the map. But it seems like he's being pretty meticulous, trying to find all of these Overlords, even though they do have speed. He's caught the second one down here in the bottom right now. Yep,
and looks like he's not actually going to group up his Phoenixes. He just wants to hunt for as many Overlords as he can before ByuL reacts to it. And we see the Baneling Nest here, as well as the Evolution Chamber from ByuL. So he's going to go for that Ling Zergling play, that Baneling Zergling play rather, that we've seen so often from in the past couple of weeks. It's become the new meta rather than going for the Mass Roach Ravager Hydra compositions.
It's kind of cool. I mean, on this map, there are a bunch of empty spaces in the middle where you can try to get surrounds, and sentries aren't that effective, depending on where you engage, of course. It's going to be up to Classic to try to find a nice little nook, or maybe, come around the wall over there towards that fourth base while he does engage. It looks like, with this many Phoenixes out, he doesn't have any drop Overlords. I don't think he's going to commit to that here. Instead, he's just going to, in fact, transition and get +1 range.
Yeah, really curious to know. I'm just trying to think of why ByuL just wants to immediately transition from the Baneling Nest. He only built that Baneling Nest, but he hasn't even morphed any additional Zerglings or Banelings. So maybe he's just very scared of those Phoenixes picking up all those Banelings. I'm still trying to think about it, but we do see the Robo come out, as well as the +1 for Classic. So he's going to pump out he's actually getting Warp Prism first rather than the Immortals. And he's getting Charge as well. It's quite early Charge, actually.
Yeah, this is pretty interesting. I wonder what kind of drop he can get down. The Phoenix is in the sky. They clean up all the Overlords. Your Warp Prism is definitely more effective because there's less vision on the map for the Zerg. But adding that charge in, it's a very nice harassment tool if you warp in Zealots and you drop them for sure. But is he going to add that en masse into his composition too, with Immortals behind and possibly get some Archons a little bit later on? Let's see. Yeah,
Zealots are great because unlike Adepts, they don't cost any gas. So any gas units that Classic decides to get, which I assume will be Immortals, as we see here in the production tab actually. Zealot Immortal is very strong, but if you don't get the positioning right with your chargelets, then they won't do too much damage. There's a nice snipe there from ByuL getting those couple of Phoenixes, but there's still a few Phoenixes out here from Classic.
That was a pretty interesting move by ByuL. He actually tried to open up a path here for the Overseer, but the Overseer is going to be picked off before it does get to the base. This Warp Prism is flying around. I mean, it looks like he was going south, and now it's going north. He's really trying to find that one nice little nook to come in from, and it looks like he'll try to go into the third base, perhaps.
Ooh, we see a Lurker Den being morphed here from ByuL, and I really love Lurkers on this map because once you take your fourth base, and then it's so easy to take your fifth base because Lurkers are very great at taking space, but oh my god, these are so many gateways here. It's obvious that Classic isn't thinking of taking a fourth base anytime soon. Definitely wants to kill ByuL before he gets his Lurkers out.
He's adding the second robotics facility. He's got 2 now. He's going to have 9 warp gates as well.
Oh man, ByuL's floating so much money right now. I don't know what he's saving up for. Maybe he just wants to get those Lurkers.
I mean, he's trying to decide, I suppose. He's making 4 mutas to shut down the Warp Prism. He actually had a really nicely placed Overlord to the left of that 5th base that he's creating now to spot the Warp Prism coming in. And saw that on the minimap, just going to make 4 mutas for the defense, and then just, as you said, probably just dump all of his money into Lurkers.
Yeah, I'm not really sure if mutas are the best choice if he's just only using them for the Warp Prism. I think he should get a few Corruptors instead, but that being said though, there aren't really any Phoenixes are out on the map. If you look at the unit count, there are still those 3 Phoenixes actually, but they're not going to be enough to kill off these Mutalisks, and especially considering that the Mutalisks are faster units than the Corruptors. The Mutalisks can move around the map quickly and pick off those Warp Prisms, but
well,
the Warp Prisms do drop the depths.
Here come the Phoenixes, and as long as he micros them, these mutas are just going to be kind of a waste of 400 there. He picks off the Warp Prism, but that's not very expensive, and then they just get taken out there. Look at this Protoss army that's being made right now.
I mean, those are so many High Templars there, and he's not even morphing them into Archons, so he's probably just going to save them for the Storms, for those Lurkers, and
yeah.
Now we see ByuL moving out here, but I'm not sure if this is the best decision considering how much Storm, how many Archons, how many Immortals Classic has here.
This is really interesting. Classic, part of his woes in the beginning of Legacy of the Void were all of the Lurkers actually facing Zerg. He really had a hard time
He's got to sandwich his army up here in the high ground. Oh, but the Revelation does come out onto those Lurkers, and he got the Storms!
Storms come down, and they are hitting a bunch of these Lurkers, but there's 14 of them, and he's trying to split his army now, but he's taking massive losses.
Oh.
There's not much Zerg army to support these Lurkers now.
Really nice concave here from Classic. He's got to pick up what these Lurkers, and what does ByuL have? He's got to be remaxing on something.
Yeah, he's making Roaches and Hydras, but the Classic, essentially, he had that concave, really nice Storms, and there were mainly only Lurkers. There wasn't much else there for ByuL. And, I mean, he's making a bunch of units now, but he lost he's about to lose his last Lurker right now, actually. That's the last of them.
Yeah, that being said, though, if you look at the unit, can you check the unit count from how many? Okay, 5 Immortals, so he did take a few chunks out of that Immortal count. And we actually see ByuL's actually going for another attack here, but I think this army here from Classic's quite beefy that any sort of counterattack from ByuL will be easily deflected.
Looks like there were some mutas left over, just doing a bit of harass damage, but just looking at that Zerg army, unless he's got a bunch of Lurkers to help out, he's really not going to be able to attack just yet. He is morphing some Lurkers. He has 4 now, but it's mainly just Roach Hydra. With taking a look at the upgrades, he's got +2. To the +2 of Classic.
And there's no sign of high tech, correct?
Yep, none just yet,
okay.
Not that I can see.
Yeah, I think ByuL need... Ooh, actually we see some drops here.
Yeah.
Like, these drops could change the game if these Phoenixes don't catch him out.
But look at this, Classic is on the chase. He is going to pick up 1 of the Lurkers here, but his army is very out of position for the Roaches that are coming into the 4th base now. This is a lot of Roaches. He's just trying to target down all the cannons, it seems.
Oh,
but this is going to give time to Classic to come back.
This is some awesome multitasking here from ByuL. If he manages to distract Classic's army here, he can do a full drop at the main base completely unhindered.
It looks like he may have noticed this. No, he hasn't. He's just moving his army right here, and he has no idea about the Overlords coming into his main.
Oh, this is ByuL has to be really careful with his drop though. It has to do critical damage if he's to stay in this game.
He's taken a lot of losses elsewhere on the map to pull this off, but he's got a massive amount of units now into the main.
Recall? No, we're not going to see recall. He's actually going to try and fight this up. Look at the choke there. If the lurkers were placed slightly to that right, then the lurkers would do so much damage with those units of Classic just funneling in. Here we see some storms, but counterattack as well.
Massive counterattack there. Lots of drones going down now, 19 of them, and it looks like this attack is going to be cleaned up as long as Classic doesn't... okay, the lift is going to save his High Templars, but...
Oh, I think that was a drop there by the lurker from ByuL here, and there's no cannons, there's no detection. This base is completely shut down.
That was a really cool idea. You saw him coming in earlier with the roaches to actually snipe the cannon specifically, and then follow up with the lurker, as you were saying, but... I feel like after all, this Classic kind of just stabilizes. ByuL has got a bigger bank, but Classic holds his fourth base. He didn't sustain too much damage in the main, and his army is still very strong.
Yeah, there's no doubt this army is very strong, but we see here the Baneling transitions coming in from ByuL rather. What am I talking about? But you have to remember, there's no gas that has been spent on sentries. All the gas has been invested into the Archons, into the Immortals.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 11 Immortals, but here we go. Okay. Storms need to pick him off, but they actually don't kill the Banelings. More Storms coming down here, and the Banelings are actually trying to target the High Templar. It looks like perhaps Classic is going to regroup for a bit while he drops here at the 4th, or the 5th.
I mean, he's trying to kill this 5th base on the left side, but ByuL's doing a very nice job defending from it. And as I mentioned before, there's no sentries for the force fields. So these Banelings will be, if the storms don't come in time, they're going to be able to do a lot of damage to that army. But that being said though, the infestation kit's only just started here from ByuL, so he's not going to get his Hive Tech anytime soon. And if Classic gets that 5th base up before the Hive Tech comes out, it's going to be really hard for ByuL to catch up in terms of tech.
Yeah, for sure. And it looks like Classic is thinking about grouping up here possibly to go for the attack. No sign of him going for the 5th just yet. Just pumping out 2 Immortals at a time, and he's actually going to transition into Stargate tech here. 2 more Stargates being added, as well as a Fleet Beacon as the follow-up.
Yeah, there is so many Immortals here in this army, and here comes the Banelings at the Storm!
Storm's coming down, but the Banelings all get through. Not very effective, but at the same time, the Banelings don't exactly do too much damage. They hit all of the Zealots, which does force Classic back and buy ByuL some time to get this tech up, but didn't kill the bulk of his army, didn't get the High Templars.
Luckily for ByuL though, he has quite a nice surplus of gas because he is investing his money into this Baneling Zergling composition that he's decided to transition to. So once he gets to that Hive Tech, he has a lot of freedom as to what he wants to do coming into the late game.
Yeah, I wonder if he is going to spot this transition from Classic.
He gets a Warp Prism, so that means there's no Warp-ins here from Classic, and he might be able to surround this army here.
Yeah, you see Classic remaking that Warp Prism and just backing off. Not going to get surrounded just yet. Needs to make sure not to ungroup his army, essentially, and split it up here. Nice little bling run by it, looks like. Wanted to possibly snipe the 5th base, but it doesn't exist.
Actually, there's some Banelings rolling across on the bottom right side, so we could see those Banelings actually try and snipe that 4th base of Classic. If Classic's not careful here comes the Banelings.
Looks like they are probably going for the probes. They're gonna be able to come in here. There's so many Banelings. Let's see how much damage he can get. 10 probes.
That's a good trade there from Classic because he's got so much money right now, and even though Classic is ahead on supply, he's just waiting for that Hive Tech to kick in and just decide to transition. But I think it's a ticking time bomb here for Classic. If the Broodlords do come out, it's going to be really hard for Classic to come back into this game.
Well, I mean, at the same time, he is making double Tempest production here. He's got 3 already on the map, and you see also an Ultralisk Cavern being made for ByuL. I don't think he's going to commit to the Ultras just yet with 15 Immortals on the map, but it'll be an option for him if this does go to that Supreme late game and he wants to go for some kind of tech switch after taking out the Immortals, perhaps.
I'm wondering why Classic hasn't taken that base at what we call the 5th base for him. It would be very safe for him to take because his army is just jockeying across the map, and unless he gets very lazy with the run buys, he's going to be able to secure that quite comfortably. But it looks like he's just happy just sitting on these 4 bases that he has. But if you look at the mini-map, all the first 3 bases are nearly mined out, so he has to do something.
Yeah, just, I suppose, not focusing on that just yet. Wants to come in here. Nice defense by ByuL. He's got Spinecrawler and a Lurker with 2 Spores, very ready for any DTs that could come in. He finally does make this 5th base, but the Mutas do spot it.
Yeah, the Mutas are going to shut that down, and this army looks very scary on paper for Classic, but we see Vipers here for ByuL, and if he gets a good Binding Cloud, or even the pulls that we see right now, there's nothing that the army of Classic can do against the Vipers that ByuL has in his army composition.
This is going to be a very interesting fight once this comes down. Mutas cancel the 5th base, and Classic is, it seems like he just wants to go for one final attack. He's not even concerned with that.
Yeah,
maybe a bit of nerves coming in, but...
Yeah, but the more time that Classic gives to ByuL, the more bank he's going to be able to get, the more lava is be able to bank. And if ByuL trades well with this army of Classic, he can just remax it to anything he wants.
Let's see how he wants to engage this. Viper's coming forward, and Storm's going down, but both of the Tempests are going to be pulled. They do go down, but the Viper's taking massive damage.
Oh, the Archons. The Storm's actually doing a lot of damage, and actually here, the Immortals just sitting there at the lower ground, actually picking off these Banelings, but oh man.
There's 9 Archons in this army, and 15 Immortals. The Banelings are rolling through for that one defense, but a really nice split there from Classic. And there's nothing left. There's a rematch of 43 Hydras, but they're not ready.
I don't think these Hydras are going to be good enough to break through this army. Look at how many Immortals there are in this army composition. Sure is going to lose that 5th, ByuL's going to lose that 5th base and possibly the 6th base.
Oh, they just can't even get out.
Oh, man.
They're blocked by some drones. Oh, boy. And Classic, even though he's mined out, and not even, he's now taking another base just now, but he's done the damage. It looks like ByuL is like, I guess I have the base trade, but Classic is going to find him in the middle of the map.
The thing is, ByuL, if he gets a good concave onto his army, he'll be able to take it out.
And he's going to try to go for this. This is a massive concave. He's nearly surrounding this Protoss army. And that's a lot of Immortals, but there's not much else to help out here.
I mean, these Immortals, their barriers are gone. And
barriers are gone, but it looks like they've done the damage.
Wow. I'm just curious to see what ByuL's going to remax on. He's still got money here to work with. But he has no bases.
Yeah, he doesn't really... Maybe it's a larva problem at this point because he's not making anything else. In fact, 10 Lings being made, not the best choice. These drones are on the attack, on the offensive, trying to find some units.
Oh, it's going to surround the High Templar.
Get the High Templars!
Surround the High Templars!
He's actually just running.
I've never seen a game where drones chase High Templar. This game's ridiculous.
Yeah, he like just gave up. He's like, I'm just gonna try to delay and distract Classic so I can make my 10 Lings. Hopefully that'll help me out here.
I mean, that 4th base of Classic is nearly mined out, but ByuL's giving Classic the chance to get that 5th base up, and once that 5th base is up, it's going to be very hard for ByuL to win this game because there are all these Zerglings, but I mean, so many Storm here for
ByuL can't do much. The Storms rain down on the army. GG. Classic takes game number 1 in pretty dominating fashion.
Classic's army positioning was very good in that game. Having those Immortals on the lower ground to pick off at those Banelings, and especially using the rest of his army to bait those Banelings forward, getting that Storm in. I think that's what won the Classic the game. ByuL did have a nice bank. He did have a lot of lava to work with, but I'm not really sure if mass 42 Hydralisk was the best option. Maybe Mutilage Transition or possibly Brood Lords would have been better for him. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, it's kind of rough to deal with that kind of Protoss army regardless of what composition you have. He essentially let Classic defend on 4 bases. Classic never even went up to a 5th base. Maybe he just saw it as a risk. You know, ByuL was like, I'm going to try to drop his main and I'm going to do a counterattack at the 4th, but Classic handled it all pretty well, and at the end of the day, his army never died, and it just kept growing and growing and growing, and by the end of that fight, you saw there were like, or at the beginning of it rather, there were like 18 Immortals, 9 Archons, like 8 High Templar with Storm. Like, how are you going to deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, the only way for any race to do... any race to deal with that amount of that death ball is with those late game tech units. We saw ByuL get those Vipers, but instead of using the Binding Clouds to negate the Immortals, he decided to use it to abduct the Tempest. I think that Binding Clouds would have been a better option. That's just my personal thought.
Either that, it's that, or you need to transition into Broodlords a bit earlier.
And just turtle behind those all those bases.
Yeah, use the Vipers, pull them in, have your Hydras underneath the Broodlords, and have it all protected. Don't let them get that position on the bottom of the cliff with all the Immortals, and you have no Broodlords, and you're sitting there like, let me try to roll my Banelings in down the cliff, but they don't hit much, and he has like 15, 18 Immortals left over, and you're trying to remax on Hydras.
I mean,
not the best position.
Immortals are pretty good units, and especially when you have 20 or so, combined with those Archons, with those Phoenixes, you basically deal with pretty much every composition that
Tempest
can throw
even.
you.
We forgot about he had like 6 Tempests too, just like mixing that in, you know.
I mean, Tempests are very bulky
response.
units, and how the AI works in StarCraft 2, they're very good at soaking out damage.
Yeah, for sure. You pull them in, and they're going to be targeted down by the Hydras. Meanwhile, the Archons are right up there. They take all the Baneling damage, and then they're just killing all your Hydras, and you don't have much else. So